This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This is Jacob Goldstein from What's Your Problem? Business software is expensive, and when you buy software from lots of different companies, it's not only expensive, it gets confusing, slow to use, hard to integrate. Odoo solves that, because all Odoo software is connected on a single affordable platform. Save money without missing out on the features you need. Odoo has no hidden costs and no limit on features or data. Odoo has over 60 apps available for any needs your business might have, all at no additional charge. Everything from websites to sales to inventory to accounting, all linked and talking to each other. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
Welcome to the W, where elite athletes are redefining the game of basketball. From buzzer-beating shots, jaw-dropping defense, and logo threes, the WNBA delivers nonstop action and world-class talent every game. These athletes don't just play the game, they elevate it. The biggest stars, the brightest stage. AT&T WNBA All-Star 2025 comes to Indianapolis July 18th through 19th. Tune into the game July 19th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Welcome back. Friday Football Feast. Paul Charchian with you. PA and Nordo, we believe, back tomorrow. PA later in the week is my understanding. Joining us now, Dan Jurgens, a writer and artist for years for Superman and many, many others, but he's written Superman, The Adventures of Superman, Action Comics, Superman the Man of Steel, and most notably, Dan worked on The Death of Superman in the 1990s, the all-time best-selling trade paperback in the history of comics. This is as good an authority as you're going to get on Superman. Dan, welcome to the show. It's not the first time we've chatted on KFAN.
It is not. Good morning, Paul. And we're not talking fantasy football. We're talking something else?
Yes, we are. Nobody wants to hear your fantasy advice, Dan.
Okay.
At least I don't. Now, Grok believes you've worked on over 250 issues of Superman. Do you think that is an accurate estimate?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It has to be, yes.
Yes. Well, Grok would never miscalculate anything, correct? So
probably not, but right, yeah, it's probably an approximate number. It could even be low.
Okay. Superman movie came out Friday, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And this is an awfully important moment for the DC Universe and Warner Brothers. Can you just give us, leading up to this movie, give us just sort of the state of the DC Universe and Warner Brothers, because it honestly was not great. I don't believe prior to this, but maybe you have a different opinion on it. Prior to this movie, like, how important was it for this Superman movie to be really good, to be well accepted, and to make money for the overall health and welfare of the DC universe?
Well, I think with things like that, these movie universes go through various stops and starts and relaunches as time goes on. I mean, they've done that with James Bond several times over the many years of his cinematic existence. And I think what this represents this time around for the DC universe is a relaunch of the universe of characters. And for those who don't know, DC is Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Justice League, the Teen Titans, Aquaman, the Green Lantern franchise, and many other things. And because this sort of represents the first effort under the stewardship of James Gunn and others, this is a very important launch point. So, yes, they absolutely wanted it to succeed, not just number-wise, but also as something that people could embrace, have fun with, and enjoy. And I think it has accomplished that.
The thinking going in, from what I know of the DC universe, is that they had struggled with flops, right? So they tried Shazam, that didn't go. Aquaman a couple of times with mediocre success. The Flash didn't really go. The DC universe hasn't had these sort of big tentpole success stories around its individual characters the way that Marvel did, And one of the things I think Marvel did really well, and tell me if you agree, Marvel would introduce a character, Iron Man or Thor, as two examples, and you would get whole movies on them, and you would really understand their backstory, and then they would put together these characters into the bigger, blended superhero groups like the Avengers. And I felt like that the standalone movies were compelling. They introduced these characters, and then we cared about them. So when they walked into the Avengers, we were like, "Oh, I already know all these characters." I never felt like DC got traction on that sort of formula throughout the past, really the past 20 years. What do you think of that theory?
Well, I think there's a lot to that. For example, and to paraphrase a little bit, I think kind of what you're saying is that the Marvel Universe always felt like a very unified effort. Whereas, with DC, it was much more, or here's a Flash movie and we had an Aquaman movie. But in some ways, what we were seeing were different visions of the characters. And we might have had the idea that they were unified, but that it really didn't necessarily feel like a strong, cohesive plan. And, even so far as tentpole movies, the Batman franchise has always been a fantastic tentpole franchise for DC, but even that didn't necessarily feel like it stretched to the other DC characters. So I think that, yes, now really what they're building is that effort to have something that is much more unified, and that Superman, and this is perhaps what he should be, because he was kind of the cornerstone of the comic book industry itself, going all the way back to 1938. I think now what he represents is the cornerstone for that entire DC franchise of characters.
Yeah, they tried Batman versus Superman. That movie didn't really gain a lot of traction. They had the advantage of Christopher Nolan, who I actually want to talk about in the segment after this, but the advantage of Christopher Nolan for those Batman movies, and they were really, really good movies. But it feels like those were three separate things. Like, those were the Christopher Nolan Batman movies that were separate from everything else that DC did in that same era and even after that era. And so I don't feel like all the Christopher Nolan traction that he got with those incredibly successful Batman movies really gave them much downstream after that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably true. It was seen very much as, Batman is in his own world, and we will focus on the world of his characters without necessarily expanding that, beyond Gotham City. But even if we go back to those times, so, it's really when Iron Man first launched for Marvel. And Marvel took a big risk because they were very much producing that on their own and financing it that way. That they said, well, we'll try this, and if it works, we can build from that. And fortunately for them, it worked very, very well, and they were more in control and able to build it that way. And they absolutely did a magnificent job of doing that. So, and that is obviously seems to be something that the market wants, is just as kids want that, in the print version of comics. The market out there seems to want these heroes to inhabit the same worlds, the same universes, and cross over that way.
All right, you've seen the new Superman movie. As you mentioned, this is a James Gunn effort. He is best known for the Guardians of the Galaxy series of movies, which people loved. They were groundbreaking. They introduced new characters. They were funny. There was so much to like about the Guardians of the Galaxy's movies, and really all three of them I thought were pretty darn good. But now he flips over; those are Marvel's. Now he flips over to DC. He's got not just this movie, but he's got really the creative helm for what DC's going to do for the future. You've seen the movie. You went to the premiere. How's the new Superman?
I liked it. It has a lot. First of all, it's very well cast. I mean, I think that in my mind, as I always picture most of these characters, it was cast very well because I think each of these individuals playing the characters hit it on point. And the movie has heart. It has energy. It has a very nice, positive vibe to it. And it puts us in a place where it's already introducing a lot of other DC characters and potentially starts to set up the kind of thing we've been talking about, different storylines that can move forward. But as much as anything, I think it really found the heart of who Superman is as a character, what the property represents, and makes it clear that, this is, and again, I'll use the word cornerstone. This is a cornerstone character of a franchise that is going to continue for a long time.
If for this Superman movie, we've seen the origin story of Superman many, many times in different films. For this new Superman movie, do we need to sit through 15 minutes of seeing the same story that we've already known?
No, as a matter of fact, and I think James Gunn found a perfect solution for that. So if you think of the very first Star Wars movie, 1977, it starts out with the scrolling text in the front of the movie that says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So as this movie, this new Superman movie starts, it does something very similar to that. It says, essentially 30 years ago, a rocket ship landed on Earth with a baby inside. That's it. And then the next one will say 3 years ago, Superman first showed up in Metropolis. 3 days ago, this happened. And you just get that quick introduction where in 15 seconds, you automatically understand exactly where you're at. So he is able to bypass the entire origin story and get to the heart of the character.
Reviews have been largely positive for the new Superman movie. But at the end of the day, is it more important that the new Superman movie makes money because Warner Brothers needs it? And I think everybody knows they need a hit here, or that it just garners positive traction and response from fans. It's well liked by the people that see it. And and obviously it can be both. And a lot of times those things do go together. But just for the sake of this discussion, let's make this a binary argument. Is it more important for Warner Brothers to have Superman be a moneymaker or something that gains emotional traction for fans?
I don't mean to dodge the question because I really do think the answer is both. And a lot of it is because if it's a movie that stands alone, right? It's just, here's our movie, it's out there. The answer is probably make money. But if it is something that is supposed to stretch and endure beyond just one movie, and to get people talking about the next 4 things that are coming afterwards, whether it's going to be something on HBO, whether it's going to be something that is an animated property or a video game or whatever else, the answer really does have to be both. The practical world says yes, it has to make money. But for people to get excited about what is to come and embrace what is to come, it really has to be the positive vibes as well. People have to walk out of the movie feeling good and say, I want to see more of this character or that character, or I want to see more properties with that kind of vibe that will make me feel this way again when I spend the money to come see the next movie.
Dan Jurgens is a longtime writer and artist for the Superman series of comic books. You're at the premiere. You've seen the new Superman movie. You've written so many different things for Superman. Can you talk about and maybe putting words in your mouth, Superman is a uniquely challenging character to write for, and because he's so powerful, he has effectively the innate ability that would come. He has like 7 or 8 innate abilities that that other superheroes would have individually. He's got wrapped into one person, and Superman only has one real kryptonite. That's the only really crippling thing for him, which I think makes Superman a uniquely challenging character to write for. Do you see, as somebody that's written hundreds of different storylines for Superman, do you see it that way?
I don't. And I think a lot of it is because with any story, with any character, part of it is finding conflict. So we can look at it and say, on the one hand, yes, for Superman, kryptonite is the weakness. But then at the same time, if you start to realize who is Superman as a character, and to a certain extent, that gets into, people talk about what his powers are and what he can do. But I think it's also important to talk about what he can't or won't do, some of which is addressed in this movie. And then if you play with this idea that he is also Clark Kent, and Clark Kent may have human responsibilities, and what kind of conflicts can you introduce that way? And it's really when you start to write about a character and get into their head and find out, what does their life represent? Where are they willing to take their battle with this foe or whatever? Or it's the classic, I can either stop the villain from taking this plane down, or I have to stop that volcano from blowing up in, wherever, but I can't do both at the same time. If you introduce those types of things, you can still, I think, put together a very good, entertaining story. And then you just need to find the proper plot structure or villains or whatever else that really challenge a character that way. So for me, I think Superman's integrity and moral clarity has been so clear that that's what has made him fun to write and fun to work with, and then solves a lot of the problems that you brought up.
Dan Jurgens, we've got about 60 seconds left. Help me understand what's next for the DC universe. I assume that we're going to get another Superman movie eventually, but these things usually are, 3 years down the road. What's next for the DCU? Do you know?
Well, I think that the more immediate one that is going to be coming out soon is going to be about a year from now, a Supergirl movie, Superman's cousin. That's going to be coming out. There's going to be a Lanterns series on HBO that is all about the Green Lanterns that is currently in production, I believe. I think those are going to be the quickest things we'll see. There's also going to be a couple of animated efforts. And, Peacemaker, Season 2, will be debuting on HBO later this summer or early fall, I think.
Who's in Peacemaker?
Peacemaker is a series the first season was on last year. It's something else that James Gunn controls. It's a character that actually goes back to a different comic book company in the 60s that is now part of the DC universe when DC, purchased them some time ago. But yeah, Season 2 is coming up. It's a fun show. A lot of people like it quite a lot. And that's coming up very, very soon. It stars John Cena as the Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a casting that's going to help, no doubt. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate the time. It's always good to get regular KFAN listeners. We happen to have, one of the world's leading authorities on Superman right here. So I'm delighted to catch up with you on this. Appreciate it.
You got it, Church. Take care.
Okay, we'll talk later. Dan Jurgens, writer and artist for Superman, going back 30-ish years, including writing The Death of Superman. When we come back, a quick movie pivot while we're talking about summer blockbusters. I think the most important summer blockbuster ever. 15 years ago yesterday We'll talk about that when we come back.
Before we go, the fan and BigDeck.com, I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with their national cash contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword for this hour is money. Keyword money, KFAN.com. Keyword money. Get ready. Comedian Nate Bargatze is bringing his 2 nights of laughs. TXL Energy Center. Don't miss out on the hilarity when he takes the stage Saturday, July 26th and Sunday, July 27th with the Big Dumb Eyes World Tour. Limited tickets still available. All the details, KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Years ago yesterday, to me, my all-time favorite summer blockbuster movie. We were just talking about Superman last segment. All-time favorite summer blockbuster movie. And I talked about it 15 years ago when it came out, but really not since then. Inception. A true summer blockbuster, a popcorn blockbuster. But unlike almost any other summer blockbuster that's ever come around it, for those that don't know the concept, and I think most of you do now because Inception's become pretty much a classic, thieves can inject themselves into the dream state of other people. They can still steal their ideas out of the dream state, but more importantly, they can inject ideas into other people's subconscious dream state so they wake up with the idea that they think is their own. What made Inception so important? It was a summer tentpole blockbuster with a brain. Forever we've gotten summer popcorn blockbusters that mostly range from stupid to mostly stupid. And you know what? That's fine. We all like the summer movies. You can turn your brain off and just go and see a bunch of stuff blow up. There's value to that. And I'm not suggesting people shouldn't have a good time with that. Jurassic Park, Independence Day, Titanic. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark falls into that. Jaws doesn't quite. Jaws was the original summer blockbuster. But that was a really good movie and about way, way more than just shark hunting. And I'm not calling them bad movies, but they were not challenging movies in any way. And almost none of our summer blockbusters have been challenging movies. But Christopher Nolan, the director of Inception, he's always throwing you into the deep end of the pool. That's what he does. And I love the fact that he goes into his movies presuming the audience aren't drooling morons, that the audience are relatively smart people that want to be engaged and want to be challenged a little bit in his movies. In the very opening scene of Inception, again, 15 years ago yesterday, we don't have any frame of understanding that these people are in a dream. And what's more, just as we're starting to understand that I'm watching people that are inside of a dream because things that are happening that could never normally happen in reality, Nolan throws in a whole new wrinkle by showing us that, by bringing us into a layer 2, a dream within a dream, layered dreams right off the bat. And in the audience, as I'm seeing it the first time 15 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, we're in a dream. And then when he throws us into a dream within a dream, I'm like, no way is he going there already. Absolutely bold and brilliant. And that movie had a ton of stars. Now, Leonardo DiCaprio was already obviously a huge star, but Cillian Murphy wasn't. Joseph Gordon-Levitt wasn't. Then Elliot, Ellen Page was not. Tom Hardy was not. Those are people who would turn into massive A-listers in part because of the success of Inception. And Nolan still understood. It's not just a thinker. People still want action, fight scenes, and tension. And he gave us all of that in Inception. And Inception's got one of the greatest fight scenes of all time. History movies. The rotating hotel hallway fight. It takes place in a level 2 dream state where Joseph Gordon-Levitt has to manage that dream state while Leonardo DiCaprio is trying to plant evidence, but it's a level 2 dream state. And in that dream, that level, the team is in a hotel. Gordon-Levitt's got to protect the group from Cillian Murphy's militarized subconscious, which is a fascinating concept by itself, which manifests itself as security forces. but the scene's physics are affected by what's happening in the level 1 dream state, which is a van that's being driven off a bridge. And because it's falling off a bridge, the original dream state's in zero gravity. So the level 2 dream state's in zero gravity. And we get this amazing battle in a rotating hallway. The hallway is spinning. Gordon-Levitt is fighting, forcing him to run on the walls and the ceilings as the rotating hallway is moving, creating this disorienting and visually just stunning effect, and almost no CGI in it. They built a real rotating hallway that was 100 feet long in this hotel, and the camera was mounted on a gimbal to spin with it, which was amazing. And Gordon-Levitt is doing hand-to-hand combat in this rotating hallway. One of the great scenes, I think, one of the great fighting scenes in the history of movies. And when we started this conversation, I said, to me, this is the greatest summer tentpole of all time. Well, Inception grossed almost $1 billion. So it's not just me that thinks that Inception is one of the great summer tentpoles of all time. You guys did too, grossing $800,000. And for me, Nolan is a modern day Hitchcock, and we can save that conversation for another time. And his best film, not even his best film. It's a great film of his. Best film's The Prestige, which unfortunately most people have not seen. But Inception, one of the all-time greats. Brett Blakemore, have you seen Inception?
Well, I'll say this. I haven't seen Inception. I've seen the South Park parody of Inception, and I would recommend going to see that. But I have seen Nolan films. Like, to me, obviously, this is going to shock you, comic book. I don't read comic books, but I love superhero movies. My favorite movie of his is The Dark Knight. That's very controversial and a very unique opinion, but I just loved it. It's such a brilliant movie. But I think the closest thing to Inception that I've seen that he made was Tenet, where it's all time manipulation and it doesn't tell you anything about what's going on. And it's basically up to you to figure it out, which I get there's some level of complexity and uniqueness about that they don't just spell it out for you or have some dialogue that literally is just exposition. That's all well and good, but I almost think, at least in Tenet's case, I can't speak for Inception, Tenet's case, it was almost too much on the other. It's like, what is happening? Like, I had and it was the color and if it changed from like blue to red, then it was forward in time, and it was just very bizarre and hard to keep up with.
If you're going to challenge people to stay along with your movie, like Inception did, what makes us feel great is when we do stay and we're like, oh my God, I get it. This is what they're trying to do. And when you get there mentally, the dopamine hit is real. Like, oh yeah, I'm following this movie. Tenet didn't give you that because you couldn't follow it. It's one of my least favorite of Nolan's films. And the sound mixing is really, and this is one of the common critiques of Christopher Nolan. The sound mixing is all goofy. It's all goofy. At the start of the show, I was talking about life in Utah and some of the things that are different from Minnesota. Want to talk about one of the key differences that I've just found in this final segment as Utah versus Minnesota through the lens of the DMV. Final segment of the Friday Football Feast coming up next. Final segment, Friday Football Feast. Paul Chargian with you. Great to be back. I've missed you all. I hope to be a regular guest with PA during the season. Maybe Thursdays, not Fridays. We'll see how that works out. I haven't talked to PA about that yet. I really need to hook up with him in Nordo, talk that through a little bit. Had an experience at the Utah DMV that I want to parallel to my experience at the Ridgedale DMV from last April. So even in April, at that point, I decided I was going to move to Utah, but I wanted to get my enhanced ID and figured, you know what, I'm going to go through the rigmarole to get the enhanced ID. I happen to have a morning free. I'm going to go through the rigmarole, get my enhanced ID going. And that way, when I go to Utah, I'll already been enhanced ID approved, and it'll be a simpler process, and I can just get all that done. So got there shortly after the Ridgedale DMV opened, I think 9 o'clock. there was already like 20 people in line where you check in first before you get your number and your letter, like 106. I didn't have an appointment, and I had done a little quick searching on the DMV website, like how to make an appointment, but nothing really turned up. And I'm like, I got all morning, I'll be fine. So I get in, get my number, and the lobby's got almost no seats left, even at 9 o'clock. And the lobby seats probably 200 people. And out of the 200, and if you've ever done this, you know that at any given time, there are 3, 4, or 5 people out of this group of close to 200 that are having speakerphone conversations or watching videos on speakerphone. You are the worst people in the world. These are the same people that do not bring the shopping cart back to the corral, where they just leave the cart where the car is. The Venn diagram of those people, the people who have their conversations on speakerphone in public, and the people who watch videos on speakerphone in public, with the people who don't bring back the shopping cart, that's a perfect circle right there, that Venn diagram. So 4 hours later, my 106, I'm still only at like 90. And at that point, I'm out of time. And I have to just abandon my number. I gave my slip to a stranger next to me who had come in more recently, figuring maybe they could be 106, and they could get service a little bit faster. And man, the Minnesota DMV didn't used to be this way. You know, I've been getting my license for years. It is way, way worse now than it used to be. Let's flip over to my dad. He's 85 years old. He's got a valid driver's license with 3 more years on it before it expires. But he wants to fly. And as you know, the government has been threatening to force everybody to have enhanced ID in order to fly. And he wanted to get the enhanced ID so he could, presumably, so he could come see me in Utah, which would be great. His passport had expired, and he doesn't travel much internationally, 85 years old, so the passport was not a priority for him. So my dad goes to the DMV in Chanhassen a couple months ago. Same situation. He does not have an appointment, waits 4 hours in the lobby, and then eventually he gives up and goes home. Comes back a different day after that one didn't work out with an appointment. And this time with the appointment, waits less than an hour, which I guess that's a victory in the eyes of the DMV. So my dad registers for the enhanced ID. He's got all the needed paperwork that you have to have. He's got his current license, utility bills for your house, birth certificate, social security card, and some other odds and ends. Now, he had started this process last August, asking the state of New York for a copy of his birth certificate to be mailed to him. It took the state of New York until May to get my dad the copy of his birth certificate. So my dad's at the DMV, wants to get this enhanced ID. So they take his current license and cha-chunk, they put a bunch of holes in it. They used to clip it. In the old days, they clipped the corner. No more. Now they chunk it with holes out of the license, which invalidates the old license. And they give you that paper temporary license that's good for 8 weeks while the state processes the enhanced license. A month goes by, and now we're to, brings us to close to current. My dad gets a letter in the mail. He's been rejected for his enhanced license. And it's because his birth certificate is very slightly different from his other paperwork. Now, for my dad, born 1939, his father had given him the middle initial S, but without a full name, just S. But when my dad was in the military in the 1950s, in order to get secret clearance, he needed to have a full middle name. So they asked him, what do you want to turn your middle name into? And he said he picked his father's name, Sam. So my father switched from just being an S for the middle name to Sam. And the Air Force switched everything over for him at that point. And from that point forward, my dad was now Aram Sam Charchian. And he had never had any problem getting any kind of identification. He had gotten his passport under Aram Sam Charchian, his driver's license, credit cards, everything for 60 years, Aram Sam Charchian. Until now. They reject him for the enhanced license because his original birth certificate says S. But now my dad's got a big problem. The DMV has invalidated his driver's license. They chunked it. And that paper license is now going to expire in a month. And he's been denied the enhanced license. So that means 1 month from now, my dad can't drive. He cannot fly. And as anyone with elderly parents know, taking the keys is a life changer. And that is not something my dad is ready for. And the state is going to take his keys. So he goes back to the DMV. This is just a few days ago with his expired passport, all his forms of ID, the same driver's license that they invalidated last month, and waits in the lobby again, and goes up to the attendant. And all he can do is just tell the same story that I just told you. The military asked him to change his name in the 1950s, and he's never had an issue with it until now. And look, here's all my old identification. Here's my name on it. Set 85-year-old military veteran. And if nothing else, my dad just wants his old driver's license back so he can drive and fly. And, remember, they clipped his license. So, he can't, 4 weeks from now, when this paper license expires, he can't drive or fly. So now my dad's at the mercy of the DMV bureaucracy. My 85-year-old father, who, God forbid, changed his name to Sam in the 1950s at the behest of his country, needs somebody at the Minnesota Department of Motor Vehicles to just apply a modicum of common sense and basic decency. You know how this is going to play out. The DMV either will not or cannot change anything. They refuse to restore his old license and won't or can't get him the enhanced license. And the woman at the DMV says he needs to get his birth certificate amended. His 1939 New York birth certificate is what they're demanding he change. And my dad reasonably asks, how am I even supposed to do that? I'm supposed to call New York and go, hey, I'm an 85-year-old guy in Minnesota. You don't know me, but I need you to change the S on my birth certificate to Sam. Trust me, I'm definitely not an illegal immigrant. Just, trust me, go ahead and change my birth certificate. That's never going to work. And the attendant of the DMV just says, effectively, in so many words, that's your problem, not mine. So in 4 weeks, the state of Minnesota is going to take the keys from my dad, a driver in good standing with 3 years left on his license, and not be able to drive or fly or see me in Utah. So that's his experience. Mine in Utah, I needed to get my Utah driver's license last week. I had a morning free. So I decided no appointment. I'm just going to go to the Utah DMV. Got there. There was one person in line ahead of me, checked in. I sat down in a room with about 100 chairs and about a dozen windows, where they have people manning the windows. There were more people working windows than there were us actually waiting. There were only about 5 people waiting. 2 minutes later, they called my number, and I went and took the Utah open book test. It's an open book driver's test. If you want to renew from a different state, you have to learn the Utah laws, and it's an online test, but they give you a 90-page book, and you can leaf through the book while you take the test. I scored 92. I don't want to brag. I got in and out almost instantly, as fast as I was the slowest component of this, me taking the test. In and out instantly. Couldn't have been, it's like to be on a different planet than a Minnesota DMV. And when I posted about this experience on Twitter, I got a lot of people back going, well, yeah, there's a lot more people in Minnesota, so of course it's going to take longer. To which I say, there's a lot more people to pay the taxes in Minnesota, and the taxes are twice as much. The state taxes are twice as high in Minnesota than they are in Utah. So shouldn't that negate the fact that it's a much bigger population? But apparently some people don't think that. So my dad's in a jam. He's at the behest of the Minnesota bureaucracy. And as much as I miss the people of Minnesota, my friends, the listeners on KFAN, That's one of the things I am not going to miss. I assume that Brandon and Common are coming up, Brett. Is that correct?
That is correct.
They are both in. We will encourage you to stay tuned for that. I will look forward to talking to you all very soon. In fact, we've got full episodes of Fantasy Football Weekly starting in less than a month. We'll be back on Saturday mornings. We're really excited for that. But Fantasy Football Weekly does record every week now as a podcast. You can hear it on the iHeartRadio app. We encourage you to check out Fantasy Football Weekly now, not just wait for Saturday. Brett, thanks for all your help today. Much appreciated.
Of course, anytime.
Talk to you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
A treasure trove of bananas has been stolen, and it's up to Donkey Kong and his buddy Pauline to get them back. This unlikely duo is going on a world-smashing adventure, using DK's destructive abilities to explore an underground world, and the power of Pauline singing to activate wild transformations. Donkey Kong Bonanza, available July 17th. Rated everyone 10 and up. Only on Nintendo Switch 2. Game and system sold separately.
You're great at protecting your own personal information. You probably even use things like two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN. But as much as you try to be in control of how your information is protected, there are lots of places that also have it, and they might not be as careful as you are. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second for identity threats. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock US-based restoration specialist will help solve identity theft issues on your behalf, guaranteed or your money back. Plus, all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, meaning LifeLock will reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. You might not be able to control how others handle your personal information, but you can help protect it with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code iHeart, or go to lifelock.com/iHeart for 40% off. Terms apply.
Hey, it's me, your heart. Mind if I pick the next song? Listen, even though we're eating better, people who've had one heart attack are at higher risk of another. But Repatha Evolocumab plus a statin lowers LDL-C, our bad cholesterol, and our heart attack risk. So let's talk to our doctor about Repatha.
Do not take Repatha if you're allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Common side effects include runny nose, sore throat, common cold symptoms, flu or flu-like symptoms, back pain, high blood sugar, and redness, pain, or bruising at the injection site. View the important safety information in our banner. Listen to your heart. Ask your doctor about Repatha.